Thinking about it. Okay, here we go. We are live. Okay, guys. Today I have a very, very, very special guest. The one, the only, Chris Naugle. And I just want to say, I really appreciate you, Chris, for coming out. It's an honor. I appreciate you for coming out and coming to talk to my viewers. I'm just going to say a little bit. I mean, you're successful. You managed over $30 million in financial assets and $10 million in real estate. And you flipped over, is it over 200 homes?
Yeah, it's like 200, and we're almost at 260 right now. When this one's done, we're at 260. 260
homes. You had a pilot TV show, HGTV, Risky Builders with your wife. What else? You're like just a visionary in wealth building.
Self-employed since 16. I used to be a professional snowboarder, which was my biggest dream. I mean, I had a chain of snowboard shops. I started it in my mom's basement when I was 16, and gosh, I've had a lot of wins. But you know what? The wins aren't what are important. The failures are really what defines me and made me who I am today.
The failures, and
absolutely,
you kind of are dedicating yourself to becoming America's #1 money mentor. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. Helping people solve the money problem is the main thing we're trying to do.
Okay. So I'm just going to let you take a few minutes and introduce yourself to the viewers and let them know who you are and why you're here.
Sure. I mean, so Chris Naugle, and you know, it's my humble beginnings are exactly that, very humble. I grew up in a lower middle class family where dad was an alcoholic. Mom had to raise me by herself, and it was a huge struggle for her. And I'll never forget those times because I remember growing up, I never really knew that there was something different. But when I got into high school, I started seeing people, I'm like, they're living different. They're doing things different, not how I kind of grew up. But I will say the one thing my mom did for me is she really instilled in me the ability to dream. And I've always been like a visionary because everything when I was a kid was just drawing. And, you know, my staff here knows, like, I always draw things. I'm always drawing stuff because that's how I get my ideas on paper. And once they're on paper, I fixate on them so much that they just become real. If you've ever read the book, Think or Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill, if you dream it, you believe it, you can achieve it. Well, to me, that vision was putting it on paper. And it started early in my life with, you know, pictures of BMX bikes or dirt bikes or four-wheelers or BMX tracks. I'd draw them out, and then lo and behold, they actually happened. Well, take that a couple steps forward. When I was 16, I had a terrible job working at a restaurant. And they degraded me so bad, I was probably clinically depressed. And I remember one day I went into work and I said, this is it, I'm quitting. And that was the day I quit trading hours for dollars. So I came home, I told Mom, I thought she was gonna be mad. And I said, Mom, I quit my job. I want to open a clothing line in the basement called Fat Clothing Company, PHAT. And this was the summer of 1992 that this happened. Well, Fat Clothing became real. And on my dream to becoming a pro snowboarder, I was traveling around selling my clothes. A year later, I had my clothes all over the East Coast. I had 4 seamstresses working for me. And then I had my next big dream. And that was to open a snowboard shop. If you got the clothing line, why not have the place, right? So Fat Man was born in my mind. And then I did the business plan. I was in college at this point. And I did the business plan with my teachers. And I went out seeking $70,000. Now, this is that point in my life where I realized, like, growing up the way I did definitely put me at a huge disadvantage because I had no idea how money worked. And I went to every bank and I heard, no, absolutely not. I went to all my friends, my family members, and I got told no by everybody. My dream almost died right there on the vine. And then my mom saw this happening. My mom never lived her dream, but she didn't want me to not have mine. So she did a silly thing. She put her house up on the line so her punk 17-year-old skateboard kid could, you know, open his first store. So 17 years old, Mom put her house on the line for me to open that store. And yeah, I mean, talk about like walking into the reality of business while being an entrepreneur. That was tough. Man, I remember, and my staff remembers many nights of me just not knowing how we were going to make it through the next day, but I did. And that was kind of my early years. And early 2000s when the dot-com crash hit, retail stores, we had 4 stores. I was doing the professional snowboard thing. Life was awesome. It was like a fairy tale at that point. And then my business dropped 20, then 30. Then one of my stores, they tore the road up, and that one dropped like 60%. And I had to go get a job. And then it landed me in the financial services world. I became a financial advisor at that time. That was in 2003. And what I didn't expect to happen, happened. I actually liked it. I loved it. Remember the movie Wall Street with Michael Douglas, the original one?
Right, the original, yeah.
that was the movie that kind of ruined it all for me, because I always wanted to be a stockbroker. I wanted to like be that money guy because I never had money. So here I was right in that scene, right in Wall Street, like doing that stuff. And I rose to be one of the top advisors. And for the next many years, I was one of the top 3 advisors in the firm that I was at. And then in 2008, I had done a couple house flips by this point, because you watch the TV show. Hey, why not flip a house when it takes 23 minutes to flip it? I mean, come on.
Right.
So I had flipped at that point by 2008, 2 houses. And then I had dove into this strip mall development. My one lease was coming due, and there was this dilapidated building. It was an old paint shop. And all I wanted to do was open my store in this dilapidated paint shop, but then have 2 other spaces that I could rent out, and they would pay my lease for me, or my mortgage, actually. Well, sounds great. I borrowed the money, $370,000 from the wrong group of people. And you know exactly what happened next, because I just told you when I did this. You see, timing is everything, right?
Right.
So they say location, 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 but also don't forget time, time, time. Well, 2008 recession hit right in the midst of this development. I'll never forget it. It was just, it was like getting hit by a Mack truck at full steam ahead. I remember all my dreams came crashing down. This hard money lender who I couldn't pay the monthly payments to, they were $3,800 a month. And I got down to being able to pay one more payment. I used loans for my 401ks. I used loans for my whole life insurance policies. And I was literally one payment away. And I'll never forget, I came home to my girlfriend who had just moved into my house. You know, that was that dream girl. She just moved in, and she moved in with this guy who's a professional snowboarder. He's got all these shops. Well, what she didn't know is I was failing miserably. And I said, Larissa, I said, I need your help. I need your help paying the mortgage. I need your help paying the utilities. And by the way, we got to rent out 2 bedrooms in this house because I can't make it. And I thought, you know, this is like a shot. She's either going to leave or she's going to say yes. Well, I think she kind of liked me, and she ended up sticking around. And that's kind of how I made it through 2008. So I'm going to get through this story really quick. But the next phase of my life you would think would be, you know, perfect. Well, 2009 to 2014 was much better. I started climbing back. I rose to the top again. I got up to 36 apartment units. And then all of a sudden in 2014, on deal number 37, I brought it to the same bank that I'd been dealing with the whole time, the bank that took me out of that strip mall. And then they said no. And I said, what do you mean? I've got all these other properties. Everything's going good. I've never missed a payment. What gives? And they said, well, you don't fit in the little square box called the debt to income ratio. We can't give you the mortgage. Oh, well, number 37 is not going to happen, but I still got 36. I didn't know this at the time. You see, the bank was going through a merger, and what they did is they froze all my lines of credit at this point, and they called my mortgage, one of my mortgages, and I didn't have any reserves. I had no money. I had no way to stop this, so I had to sell all 36 units. Me and Larissa, who she was now my fiance, we had bought our dream house. I had to sell that dream house. Me and Larissa split. She got another boyfriend, and I went to Thailand for a month with a backpack to figure this thing out. And probably a lot of this, I had to find myself. So you see what happened. Like, I was on this roller coaster ride, early 2000.com, got back. 2008, lost it all, got back. 2014, lost it all. And 2014 is where it all changed, because I got in such a self-loathing point in my life where I just blamed everything on everybody else. Literally, you know, a lot of people like that, where they just blame. It's the economy's fault. It's this person's fault. It's my business partner's fault. Nothing was my responsibility, and I took zero responsibility, and I watched my life just go lower and lower and lower and lower because of this. Then in the mail came the magic postcard. It was nothing more than a postcard saying, come to this 3-day event to learn how to flip houses. Now, I assure you, I wasn't going to learn how to flip houses. But one thing they do, and we talk about this all the time, they were giving away a free iPod shuffle. And that free iPod shuffle was what got me to that event, because I had nothing to lose and I had an iPod shuffle to gain.
Right.
At that event, I met 2 people. So this is day number 2. I was bored out of my mind first day. I thought I knew all this stuff. Day number 2, Greg and Mike. I'm not going to go deep into who they are. Greg was the bank and the lender, and Mike was the TV show star on A&E. They got up and they started talking about what they're doing in real estate. And I listened intently. And all of a sudden, I started seeing and listening to what they were saying. And I'm like, oh, my God. What these 2 successful, wealthy real estate investors are doing is the complete opposite of every single thing I was ever taught as an advisor, everything I was taught to do in real estate. It was all the opposite. It was like almost having an awakening point where I just didn't know what I didn't know. And at that moment, I dove in. I started learning and following them around, mentoring with them. And I literally spent, over the course of the next couple of years, money I didn't have, I racked up about 80 grand in credit card debt, going and following around multimillionaires and billionaires to learn how money really worked. Now, remember, I want you to all remember this. I was a high-level financial advisor, a Wall Street advisor, trading $30 million worth of money. And I didn't know this stuff. They taught me some secrets that the wealthy people knew, that they'd learned by other wealthy people. And these are things that I was never privy to. And at that point, I had to crack the code. And I think everything that I do today is teaching people these secrets of the wealthy, because nobody else is going to teach it. They don't teach this stuff in school. They don't teach it in college. They don't teach it in trade schools. There's always been a secret of the wealthy. And the reason it's always been that secret is nobody ever tells anybody about this. They have no financial gain to tell you. Advisors aren't going to tell you about the things I teach because they can't make money doing it. And this just goes on. And that's kind of, I went long with that story because it's so important that people understand that I've failed so many times that I've now learned the secrets. And that's kind of how I've done it.
That's great. And one thing that kept coming back to your story is mindset, your environment. So I got this question for you. What type of mindset and environment do you need to become a successful business owner or a real estate investor?
Yeah, your mindset has to be one of consistency and persistence. And I call it the money mindset. The first thing you need to do is stop listening to other people. Will Rogers says a quote, and it's profound. So listen to this closely and write this down if you can. Will Rogers says, the biggest problem in America is not what people don't know. The biggest problem is what people think they know that just ain't so. I want you to think about all the people that you've been around in different circles. And I want you to think about the conversations. Think about like when you went to a convention or a workshop and you're around all these successful people that are talking about success, that are positive, that are smiling. Think of how you felt inside. You felt almost invincible. You felt positive. You felt like, oh my God, this is it. This is that thing. I'm going to get there. And then you come home and what happens? You settle back into your normal life and you get around your negative people, right? And I've had these people, I can speak like this, my best friend, some of my family members, and they're like, oh, why would you think that? That's a scam. That's not real. Why would you do that? That's too risky. Can't you just be satisfied? Can't you just get a job? You've heard it all before, right? How do you feel when you're in that circle? So we talk about mindset, right? Money mindset is get yourself around the 5 people doing the things you want and stop listening to people that don't know what they don't know. Will Rogers said that, and that's his quote. So that's the biggest piece of advice I can give people is don't listen to anybody, unless they've done what you want to do and they're living the life you want to live.
Exactly. I think we all take advice from people that don't have what we want. And I don't know why we do that. We take marital advice from people that have never been married, financial advice from people that just they're living paycheck to paycheck. So I agree with that with that.
Well, I can almost answer that. I figured that out. You know why we do that? That's what we were taught to do. Just the same reason. Why do we do things that we do with money? Because that's what we were taught to do with money. We were physically our whole lives taught to be in that negative environment, surround ourselves with them. Not when we're babies. I got an 8-week at home, 8-week-old at home, a little daughter. She isn't negative. She's always smiling, always happy unless she needs to, eat or get changed. That's it. So, but then somewhere along this path of life, we get in this negative mindset where everything around us, especially right now in COVID, everything around us is negative. We don't have much positivity around us. It's always negative this, negative that, more cases this, more shutdowns that, right? How do you stay positive? Well, you shut it off. You shut the noise off and you focus on that one positive thing in the day. I don't care how small it is. Maybe you got coffee in the morning and that coffee was so good. Well, that's what you should focus on. Every time you get in a negative mindset, focus on that positive thing. Sorry to bring up coffee, but like it just first thing that came to mind. Let me give you an example of this. I still, if you think for 1 second, I don't get in a negative mindset. I do. I have bad days. I have days where it just seems like everything's going wrong. And you know what I started doing? I started answering every one of those bad things with a positive thing. If a hater came on and posted something to one of my posts, I would answer back, thank you for that post. I really appreciate your opinion. And I will, something positive. And then they come back negative and I go back positive. Watch how many times that happens. Negativity cannot overcome positivity. But the thing you can do is you can allow your mind to go back to that negative mindset. And when you do, it's momentum, folks. It just spirals out of control. Positivity is the same thing, but we just are not surrounded by enough of it. Positivity spirals to the same momentum and it'll spiral up. They call it vibration and momentum, right? Just get yourself around the right people. And if you can't get around the right people, like I hate to say it, like I live in a town in Buffalo, New York. Okay. This area is the worst negative mindset place in the country. Bar none. I've traveled the whole country and I've traveled all over the world speaking. This area has the worst mindset. So what I've chosen to do is I've chosen just a select few people here that I hang out with and that I surround myself with because they're positive. They're always smiling. They're always happy. They're talking about good things. When I get around negative people, I leave. If I go to an event and they're talking about negative things, I get up and I leave. Even if my coffee or my beer is not done, I'm gone. When I travel, I choose who I want to be around. And if nobody around me is somebody I want to be around, I'll just go to my hotel room and I'll turn on some YouTube videos that are positive. That's how you do it, folks. It's that simple. Money is that simple too. Like, we all have to start realizing that there is a serious money problem in this country. And you know what that problem is? We are not in control of our money. We have never been told or taught to be in control of our money. And it's a problem that I am bound and determined to solve. And it's easy to solve. You just change one thing and that will solve your money control problem. But let me just explain that, because a lot of people, when I say you're not in control of your money, they think, oh, well, yes, I am. I got money in my bank account. I'm in control of that. No, you're not. Let's talk about bank accounts, because this is what everybody thinks they're in control of. First and foremost, we've been taught when we have money, we put it in our bank account. It's like our warm and fuzzy feeling. We've got all this money in our checking and savings, and that's an emergency fund. But are you really in control of your money? Well, to put that to test, I want you to do this. Go to your local bank where all your money is. Just do it as a test and try to take all of your money out in one day. If you've got over 10 grand, there's a very strong chance they will not give you all your money in the first day.
Will not.
No, I know they won't. I've done this and I've had other people do this. And I literally just was on the phone with somebody the other day. She's like, it took us 2 months to get all of our money. They had a lot of money there, but you can't. So if you're in control of your money, which we should be, right? When we go to a bank and we give a deposit to the bank, we're just giving them the ability to hold on to our money, right? So why is it a problem for us to get our money back? It's because we're not in control. The bank is in control. And then what does the bank do with our money when we deposit it there? First off, they pay us like nothing, right? They pay us less than 1% in most cases. And if you're making less than 1%, let me give you a piece of advice. You're losing money every year to inflation. Inflation right now, they just printed $2 trillion in this bailout. I think it's even more than that now. That $2 trillion has no value when they print it. Do you know where it gets its value? From your current dollars. Your current dollars just lost value because they printed $2 trillion. True fact, look it up. Right. Okay, it's called inflation. It's a hidden tax. So literally every day that more dollars are printed, they're stealing value from your money. So if you got money in a bank and it's earning 1% and inflation's 2%, you're losing 1% per year. They're stealing your money. But the bank won't even give you that money. And then when you do take all your money out, you have to fill out a bunch of forms. Like, where is that being in control of your money? So that's banks. And just so you know, banks make, and you can look this up, go to BauerFinancial.com and it'll show you, banks make 400 to 1,300% more than we do on the money we leave there. Think about that. Why wouldn't you want to be the bank, right? If they're making 400 to 1,300% on the money we leave there, don't you want to just mimic what the bank does? And that's where my whole story starts. And that's what I learned from these wealthy individuals and these billionaires that I've followed. All they do is they do exactly what a bank does. And you know what a bank does? A bank moves money. That's all they do. We go in and we put our deposits in the bank. Do they put our deposit in a little box in the back with our name on it so that when we come back 10, 20, 30 days later, we take our dollar with our name on it? No, our dollar goes in. And if our name's really big written on the front, that dollar will never come back because it's going out the door right behind you in those cubicles. Right. They're lending our money out at a higher rate. They take our deposit, which is an asset to us. It's a liability to the bank. They loan that money out. And they do this over and over and over again. But what do we do with money? We park our money in banks and we just let it sit because we have been taught to believe in this thing called compound interest. Compound interest only works if you leave your money somewhere and it sits. And when it's sitting, can it be in motion? No, it's like a stagnant pond. And would you eat a fish out of a stagnant pond? I sure wouldn't. I wouldn't. So that's what we've been taught to do with money. But let's go one layer deeper. What else have we been taught? Well, put money in employer-sponsored retirement plans, 401ks, 403bs, 457s. This is what I was taught. Grandma said to me, she said, Chris, when you get a job, ask them if they have a 401k and ask if they match. And if they match, make sure you're putting as much money as you can in that 401k, Chris, because you don't ever want to be like Grandpa and I. You don't want to be working into your retirement because, Chris, we don't work because we want to. We work because we have to. This is from my grandma. She's no longer here, but, God bless her. But that's what they taught me because that's what they were taught. That's what their parents were taught. When we put money in a 401k, we are literally giving up our good dollars today to be paid back with weaker dollars later. If your dollars are worth the most today, which they absolutely are. And if you don't believe that, go back 20 years ago with $1 and tell me how many candy bars you can buy. The answer is a lot more than you can today.
True.
So you put your money in the 401k. That money sits there stagnant, out of your control, and it grows in the markets, right? Mutual funds, ETFs, stocks, bonds, it's going to grow. This is what I did for years and years and years. And that money grows or doesn't. And someday later, 59 and a half, we can go in and take that money out. But when we take it out, we take out weaker dollars. Not only that, all that money's taxed, isn't it? So if I ask you, would you rather pay tax on the seed or the harvest? What would you tell me?
I think I want to pay on the seed.
Correct, right? Wouldn't you rather pay tax on the small little seed than you would on the harvest? But we do the exact opposite. We all would say that. Every person I've ever asked in front of thousands of people on Grant Cardone's stage, they all said the seed. And then I ask them, well, why are you doing what you're doing with 401ks? I don't get it. Well, you're paying tax on the seed, or I'm sorry, you're getting a tax deduction on the seed and you're paying tax on the harvest. You're getting a deduction on today's dollars, which are the smaller, weaker dollars, or the smaller, more valuable dollars. And then you're paying tax on the huge harvest to take your weaker dollars back. We literally compound the taxes. And the funniest thing about 401ks, I want you to think about this one thing. We do things with money that we would never, ever do with things that money buys. Would you ever buy a loaf of bread, beautiful loaf of bread, come home, put it in your freezer, shut the door, and wait 5, 10, or 15 years, then come back, open it, and take that freezer burned loaf of bread out and be like, yum, God, I can't wait to eat this. Can't wait to eat that. You wouldn't eat that freezer burned loaf of bread.
Not at all.
Would you ever buy a car and wait 5, 10, or 15 years to drive that car?
Not at all.
Probably not. And would you ever buy your dream home and wait 5, 10, or 15 years to move into that house?
No.
So why do you do that with your money? Right? This is the big lie that we've been taught. And you know what? For 16 plus years, I did this at a high level. And I had the rosy colored glasses on. I wish I had a pair of my glasses, but I get these little red glasses. And I did this for 16 years. And when I took those glasses off and retired from being a financial advisor in 2018, because of the TV show, I started realizing that this is the opposite of what wealthy people do. I go around and I talk to wealthy people. My mentor is a billionaire. And I ask him, I say, how come you don't have any money in the stock market? He's like, because there's too much risk and I can make twice as much in other places. And I said, what are those other places? Well, real estate always comes up. That's a huge one. But also mutually owned insurance companies. Almost every wealthy person I've ever met, they don't use banks the way we do. They use them, but just transactional for like paying bills and debits and online banking. What they use for their vast amount of money that they have is insurance companies. They don't put their money in banks. They put their money in giant mutually owned insurance companies, and they treat them just like a bank. And it was created just for everybody that's listening, because they probably never have heard this, because nobody, for some reason, nobody has heard about this, but it's been around for 200 years. The Rockefellers back in their era had so much money that they didn't trust banks. Banks were weak, right? FDIC and fractional lending, they didn't trust any of that. So they had to find a safer place to create a banking system. So they figured it out. They said, we want a safer financial institution. Insurance companies, they're the biggest, they're the safest. They don't go out of business like banks do. So then they said, okay, well, if insurance companies are the safe place to put money, how do we get them in there? How do we use this as banking? And they figured it out using a whole life insurance policy. But now that I just said that, now the cat's out of the bag. When I say whole life to you, you think life insurance. And you think money when you die, and you think that's a terrible place to put money, because Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman says whole life insurance is the worst place to put money. And you know what? You're right. It is. Whole life insurance, a traditional whole life, is a terrible place to put your vast amount of wealth. But you see, what I talk about is a specially designed and engineered whole life. The same way banks use whole life is the way we use whole life. And the way wealthy people use it, it's designed for banking, and it's designed to work just like your bank account, except for these differences. You see, when you put your money through these specially designed whole lives and you put them into the insurance company's general account, the insurance company guarantees you a 4% return. That's for some people 4 times more than they're getting in their bank account. Secondly, because it's a mutually owned insurance company, they pay you a dividend every single year. And as of 2020, the main company we use pays 2.2. So now, just for changing that one thing, and that one thing is where my money goes first, I now increased my return on my money by a guaranteed 4%. Okay. But now that wouldn't be where I'd stop. You see, wealthy people would never just stop there, because they'd be like, well, that's not what I want to do. I got to move my money. Insurance companies, through this specially designed and engineered whole life, allow you to then take your money right back out. So they make deposits and they immediately take the money out 30 days later. And they go and they invest that money in real estate. They go and they invest that money or lend that money out as a private loan. They do a lot of different things. For you and I, what I did when I first learned about this is I put money in, I took money out, and I went and paid off credit cards. You know, one of the best things I can tell people is how to build wealth. And you know how simple building wealth is? The best way to build wealth is not to work harder, not to work longer, not to go get a promotion. You know what it is? Take back the money that you're giving away to everybody else. You want to truly build wealth? On a piece of paper right now, write down all the checks that you write or all the bill pays that go out every single month to other people. And really add it all up and then say, which of these can I take back? Starting with credit cards, then car loans, then all the debts. Take all that money back and tell me how much money you'd now be saving if you weren't giving it away. Well, what if there was a way where you could use this system to take this money out, pay those debts down, but when you pay those debts down, let's say you owed Visa $3,000 and you paid Visa off $3,000, and you might have been giving Visa $100 a month, which was about a 25% rate of interest rate that they charged you. If you paid Visa off and you then took that 100 and you put it back in this specially designed and engineered whole life, how much did you just make? 25%, right? We were giving Visa 20 or 25%. If you paid Visa off and you pay that money back to yourself, you're making the same rate of return you were given to Visa. So you just made a 20 or 25% return. But what if this specially designed whole life continued to keep paying you interest even when you took the money out? So let's imagine this. Imagine you go into your bank. Okay, we're gonna pretend right now. You go into your bank, you give your bank $1,000, and your banker says, thank you, gives you your receipt, you leave. You come back 30 days later, and your banker gives you your $1,000 back, and your banker says, hey, listen, I just want you to know that even though you're taking this money out, we're still gonna pay you interest and dividends on that full $1,000 that you just put in here because we really appreciate your business. And what the bank's willing to do is the bank's willing to just give you money from our general account. We'll just give you a loan for $1,000 so that your money can stay in here earning this 4% interest. And now you got a loan, but we're only going to charge you 5% on the loan. So you're earning 6.2 and you're only paying 5. So your arbitrage is 1.2%. That's the first year. Now, that money that's sitting in your bank account continues to keep earning interest, compounding, going up and up and up. But yet you're now using all of that money and you're using it for something else like paying Visa down. So I could go deep into this, but this is what I teach people. I teach people how to mimic what banks do through a 200-year-old banking system that was created by the Rockefellers using these stupid, silly whole life instruments, but not a whole life policy like you know, using them for banking. And you know who else does this? You see it every single day. You've just never paid attention and you've never put two and two together to think that privatized banking is what I'm talking about. Banks. Banks are the number one users of what I just explained to you. But you've never really understood when you walked into a bank why everybody's a vice president. You go into a bank lately? Look at the tags. How many vice presidents do they truly, really need? You ever pay attention to that? Well, let me tell you why that is. In order for a bank to buy a whole life, a specially designed whole life, what I'm talking about, a privatized banking whole life, they need an insurable body. They need to insure somebody. So they can't just insure anybody. They need to have an insurable interest. So when they promote somebody to a VP, that employee becomes an insurable interest to the bank. Because if they lose that employee, that's an executive. Oh my gosh, they got to replace that. It's going to take money. The insurance company then will write an insurance policy on that employee. But the bank then says, okay, well, Mr. VP, we're going to give you a promotion. We're going to give you a deferred compensation. You've heard of deferred compensation plans. Guess what funds almost every one of them? These specially designed whole lives. So that employee gets promoted and that bank says, here's what we're going to give you. We're going to give you a raise. We're going to give you a deferred comp that we're going to pay you someday later, 20 years of working here. We're going to give you an income. But then what we're also going to do is we're going to give you a fully paid up life insurance policy of $100,000. So if you ever pass away, the bank's going to pay those premiums and your family's going to get $100,000. That VP is like, yes.
Right.
And the bank is like, yes, because now what the bank does is goes and buys one of these specially designed whole lives. They insure that VP. Now, if that VP makes it to 20 years, they get paid that deferred comp paid by that specially designed whole life. But the whole time this bank was using this whole life and moving money from it. Okay. And guess what was paying those premiums and those deposits into that whole life? We are, through our deposits. It's called Tier 1 capital. And then when that employee dies, the bank or the insurance company pays out $100,000 to that employee's family. But how much do you think the bank gets? Because the bank owned this policy. The bank probably got a $1 or $1.5 million payout. Well, that's what it is. But you see, Wouldn't it be nice if you had a place to put money where you'd earn a higher interest rate than what you're getting now, but you still could go back into that bank and take your money out and still continue to earn uninterrupted compound interest while you take the money out and you use it. But then when you use it, instead of just using that money and just saying, no, I'm just going to waste it and blow it and, have it be gone, you actually were smart and you treated it like the bank's money. In other words, if you bought a car today and you had a monthly car payment, you have to make that car payment. And if you don't, they take your car. So if you took money from this banking policy and you paid off your car, it would only make sense to treat your money the same way you treat the bank's money and take that car payment and pay it back to yourself. It's the same dollars. You're already giving it away. Now, all you're doing is you're taking it back. You see, if you just did that a little bit at a time, every single year or every single month, you made an effort to take back the money that you're giving away to everybody else, you would be wealthy. And I'm living proof. Okay, you heard my story. I didn't grow up with anything. I wasn't the smartest guy. Okay, I wasn't an Ivy League college guy. I simply figured things out by going through the school of hard knocks, and because I got surrounded by the right people, and I started seeing this pattern. And that pattern was exactly what I just said. All the wealthy people did two things. They did this, and they also invested in real estate. And I put it together, and I said, there's something to this, and I started using it. And now that I've used this, it's just incredible what I could even tell you that I do in my life. But now I share this with the world. Well, U.S. and Canada is the two countries I can do it in. And I help people take back the money that they were giving away and create wealth in an extraordinary way, but a completely unusual way.
Right, but that's awesome. It's kind of, when you were talking about paying it back, it's kind of like if you were, a lot of people borrow from their 401k.
Same idea, exact same idea. Yep.
You have to pay it back. I mean, you have to pay it back unless it's some extra central circumstance where they tell you, like, if your house burned down or something, then you don't have to pay it back, but you have to pay that money back. But I don't think it's at the same level of interest like you said that you would get if you paid yourself back. So
I teach that as well. Yeah. And I love that you brought that up. The only problems with 401ks is when you take that money as a loan from your 401k, there's a couple of things that happen. Number one, you stop the earning potential of that money because now it comes out of the 401k. It's no longer making a penny. But what you do with it, you could take that money and you could pay off your credit cards and recapture the money from the credit card. So you could do the same thing. Secondly, the risks are if you ever got furloughed or you got fired from your job, that money immediately becomes due. You see, when you take these loans from this life insurance contract, this policy that I'm talking about, those loans technically never need to be paid back. And people are like, wait a second.
I was going to bring that up because you know who I talked to? Brent.
Yes, my mentor.
I talked to Brent. I met him through Cincinnati RIA event.
Yes.
And that's the reason why I found out about this. And that's how I got connected to you through the Money Multiplier group.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I asked that question to him, like, well, because, you know, traditionally, if you borrow from your 401k, you have to pay it back. And like you said, it'll be, you know, they make you, if you get fired or something, you got to pay it right back. And he said, listen, be your own bank, pay yourself back. You know, it's only going to get bigger. But if you don't pay it back, you don't have to pay it back.
Correct. Do you want me to explain that real quick to your audience? Because it's a key thing. So when you think of a loan, you always think this loan's got to be paid back. If you go to the bank and you take a loan, you have to pay that loan back. Otherwise, there's consequences. But you see these mutually owned insurance companies, when you take a loan, you really don't have to pay that back because remember, the insurance company promised you two things. One, a guaranteed 4%. But number two, they promised that upon your graduation, okay, and I don't mean graduating from high school. I mean the big graduation date, death. I just hate saying that word. Upon your graduation date, that insurance company is going to pay a death benefit tax-free to your heirs, to whoever you decide your beneficiary is. All the insurance company does is any unpaid loans, they're just going to go look at your death benefit, subtract those loans, and pay you the net. So when you're taking loans from this contract that I'm talking about, you're simply leveraging your death benefit. That's all you're doing. And all the growth, that 4% plus the dividends that grows internally, is tax-free if designed properly. Okay,
so that's one of the major secrets. You explained it to the audience, you know, to invest in a whole life insurance policy, which is good because I think a lot of people actually don't have insurance. You know, like if you look on social media, a lot of times we see people pass away and they're doing GoFundMe.
Yep.
So this is a way to become your own banker. And then also make sure that you have something to give back to your kids. And you can also borrow from it and use it to pay off things. I think Brent said he bought houses for his kids. His kids have, you know, these policies, and he's paid off condos and cars and all of these kind of things. And so I thought that was really a cool thing that people can take advantage of. And that's why I wanted you here, so people can understand how money works.
And I did it really simply. I'm just trying to help them understand like the system of this. But I mean, when you actually use it, the one thing that we can't explain that you can't really comprehend is the power of uninterrupted compound interest. But if you understand who Albert Einstein is, and you look up his theory on uninterrupted compound interest, you will see that he literally calls it the eighth wonder of the world, simply the most powerful thing in the financial world. And it's because it is. And when you think about money compounding, that money that's sitting in that specially designed whole life, that money every single year is growing and growing and growing. It doesn't matter if you're taking it out, it's still growing and growing and growing. And the one thing you don't know is how much it's growing. And it is unstinking believable. The internal rates of return on these contracts I'm talking about are upward, depending on what year. But I mean, in the first 5 years, you're seeing double-digit cash on cash returns. By the 10th year, most of the plans I'm doing are about a 96 to 101% cash on cash return. Now, your bank account can't do this. Heck, your 401k probably can't do this. This vehicle is the only one that can, because it allows you access to your money while you're still earning interest. It's the only thing on earth that does that. So when you come down and you're like, oh, that whole life, it's a terrible thing. You just don't understand it. That's all. And that's why I use that Will Rogers quote. The problem in America is not what people don't know. It's what they think they know that just ain't so. You see, you thought you knew what whole life was, but you don't know how to use this specially designed whole life for banking, but I just told you how. And when you actually see it, you will have a transformational moment like you've never had, and you will understand why the Rockefellers use this, why people like McCain and Biden and so many of these others. I don't get political at all, and I just use Biden because he went public talking about this. I'm sure Trump uses it too. Right. But every wealthy person, every family office that I've come across, they understand this. They don't call it whole life. They call it privatized banking or infinite banking. Okay, they call it one of the two.
I was telling people to read the book by Nelson Nash, Banker, because it kind of explains the infinite banking system.
Yeah, that's a great book. And then, me and Brent just wrote a book, correct?
I didn't know you
here. Hey, Gabby, can you grab me a copy of it? How about we give you want to give your audience a copy of the book for free? Let's do that. I'm not even going to ask. Let's just give everybody a copy of our book. And this book will walk them through exactly how this system works, how I've used it in my life to build a rental and real estate portfolio that would be one that many people would like, and how Brent used it to pay off $984,000 worth of debt. Here it is. This is our newest book. And let me just read you a little thing. I'm going to read this to everybody. What if you could get all the money back for every purchase you've ever made and create wealth through your own debts and expenses that you already have? This is what I've been talking about. If you're like most Americans, you've spent your entire adult life paying the banks, paying your creditors and your expenses, and at the same time, you've watched your retirement funds and your legacy dramatically fluctuate or evaporate in the markets. Sort of just happened, didn't it? You've been taught to give up control of your finances and assume risk, and it's costing you your financial freedom. The wealthiest people know differently. In this book, we expand upon a 200-year-old strategy used by the wealthy to eliminate debt, grow your wealth, and minimize taxes and leave a legacy. And we teach it in a very simple way. And the other thing that this says is, now that you've learned how to build your wealth, keep your money in your family, pay off debts and expenses, and recycle and recapture money like conventional banks do, all of this is done without taking on any risk, without working any harder, without changing your cash flow, and without losing control of your finances. Today, everything changes. Today, you become the bank. So I'm going to give every one of you a copy of this book, and you just go to a link. All you got to do is pay the shipping to get it to you. How do you want to do the link? Do you want me to just kind of explain it?
I'll see what it is, and I'll type it.
Yep, it's easy. It's moneyschoolrei.com/new book.
Okay, I got almost. I'll go ahead and put that in.
Or, another way to do it, see, right under my name is my website. Go to my website, go to resources, and then just scroll down, and I believe it says book, free book. Just click the free book, and then you just give me your address, and I will literally sign the book and send it out to you.
Is that right, Chris?
You got it. That's it. Right there.
That free book. All you got to do is pay for shipping. Invest in yourself, guys. He's giving you the book for free. He's giving you the book.
And there's Brent.
There's Brent. That's my homeboy, Brent.
Yep.
You guys know, this is what I've been trying to impose on people, is getting the right information, getting around the right people, learning all about how money works, and you speak to tens of thousands of people.
It's insane.
These people pay to come and see you. This is what I want people to understand. People come out and hear Chris speak. They invest in his programs and everything. And let me put your other thing up here too. This is also his, if you want to get started with the program that he has, please go there. But people will pay to come and see him. And he, without a doubt, I reached out to him and he said, you know what? Absolutely. I'll do that. I'm excited. And I couldn't believe it.
You know, one thing that the book does, that everybody seems to love this. And I bet you when you talk to Brent, this is the thing that fired you up. Because I remember hearing this and I'm like, I got to know that just for that. This book will teach you how to get all the money back for every single car you will ever buy, drive, and own. Right there. Every single car you will ever buy, drive, and own. This book literally will give you the secret on how you get every single penny back. And like, I wrote about it, but you know what? I do it. My wife, we just bought her a Porsche, and that vehicle, we're going to get all the money back, because instead of giving the money to the bank, I pay myself every single month for that car, and that car is free. Well, it's not free. I have to pay for it, but I get all the money back. It's my money. So even though I'm paying, you know, the money's mine. It's coming to my bank. If you owned the bank, why would you have a problem putting money in your bank? Because when you put money in your bank, you can take your money right back out of your bank. But see, the thing is so many people have never been shown how to do this, because all we've been shown our entire lives, and it's by design, is to give up control of your money. That is exactly why I say that I solve I always say I solve the money problem, or I solve your money problem. And that problem is I show you how to get back control. This, what we just talked about, is exactly how you take back control of your money, which is why I give the book away for free. I could charge for the book. I give it away free because I want people to understand this, because this will change your life. And the other thing, you know this, and your audience probably doesn't, is, you know, one thing we don't do with the money multiplier is we don't charge you anything. You'll never pay Chris. You'll never pay the money multiplier. The only check you'll ever write is the deposit into your banking policy. You see, we get paid by the insurance company. And the reason you've never heard about this from your insurance agent, your financial advisor, is in order for this to work the way that I explained it, because you've never seen a whole life work like this. We have to give up 60 to 90% of our commission to give it back to you, so you have access to 60 to 90% of your money immediately in the first 30 days after your deposit. You've never seen it work like that, because no one's ever been willing to give up 60 to 90% of their income so that you can benefit. Well, that's the secret. Sometimes in life, the biggest thing I can tell you is, in order to have success, you have to be willing to give. Zig Ziglar said, if you help enough people get what they want, you will get what you want. That is the number one secret. Like, if you really want success, give more. If you really want to get out of a bind, if you're in a bad place, give before you get. Stop doing what I did in 2014. Stop blaming people. Stop thinking that it's about you, and you got to help you, and I'll give when I have money, or I'll give, when this happens, or I'll give when that happens. Focus on just giving. Now, I don't mean giving money. If you have no money, you can't give money. You can't give something you don't have. Go out and give a smile. Go out there and make somebody that's down on their luck, make them smile. That's the same as giving, folks. You see, giving doesn't have a tangible mean. It doesn't mean you have to give something tangible. You can, but try just giving the blessing of positivity. Try giving the blessing of just going out and lending a helping hand to an elderly person that needs groceries. These are tough times, folks. In these tough times, if you want to get ahead, if you want to make the biggest difference you will ever make for your life, the first thing you need to do is you need to be the light in the darkness, because these are dark times. And to be the light in the darkness, you have to help people. You have to help people solve their problems. If you just do that one thing, everything else in your life will fall right in line, because it's the universal law. Now, I might be able to show you a banking system that will change your life. I might be able to show you how to invest money in a way that you've never seen. I might be able to show you how to use, money that you currently have in very different ways. But you know what? The number one thing I can teach you that will trump all that is I can teach you how to give. And the more you do that, the more you will find the fruits of those labors. I swear it. I am living proof of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And positivity, it puts you in a different vibrational energy anyways. You start to attract different people, different circumstances and opportunities. So you got to stay positive. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
That's why I opened up talking about those two groups, because we've all done that, right? We've been in that positive group and we've been in that negative group. And we remember those feelings. It's the same thing, folks. Get in the positive group. Be that positive light. Be that light in these dark times.
Well, Chris, again, I can't express how grateful I am for you for coming on today as a special guest. And again, guys, he's giving away this book for free. Go to moneyschoolrei.com/new book, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery.
Yep. And then that link that's scrolling across the bottom for Get Started, if you go to that, that's an event that I'm doing next week. You literally get to spend 3 days with me. 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I am going to just pour it all out you. I'm going to teach you this to a finite science. I'm going to show you how to trade the stock market in a way you've never seen it. I'll show you how to make money in the markets going down, not up, well, up, down, sideways, doesn't matter. I'll teach you that. I'll show you how to find money for your real estate deals, find money for your business. I'll show you how to structure all those deals. It's 3 days of just money, teaching you how to get back control of your money and teaching you how to make your money work harder than it's ever worked before. So it's $197. That's what the cost is. Join me for 3 days.
Cheap. That is a cheap event, you know.
Because you got to give to get. That's what I'm trying to explain. And if I could charge way more than that for this event. Matter of fact, when we used to do this event, I used to charge $2,000 for it, and I got it. But now we're doing it virtually. It doesn't cost me the travel and everything. So now it's only $197. And literally, I'm going to give you 3 solid days of me and what I know.
That's fantastic. You know, like I said, I appreciate you coming out here, and it was just amazing. I had some other questions, but we went way deeper than
That's my fault.
Right? No, that was fantastic, because then, you know, you were able to kind of bring up some questions that people were going to ask anyways. But one question I do have, which I'm not going to, I know that a lot of people are going to ask, how expensive is it to get their policy started? And in fact, it's not what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like, oh, I had to put $10,000 in. And when he told me, I almost fell out of the chair.
So here's the easiest way to say that. Take your age, multiply it times 10. I'm 42. So $420 a month would be the minimum for me to start a banking policy. You just take your age times 10. And if you're 60 or 70 years old, well, maybe it doesn't work for you in that sense from the deposit. Do you have a child? Do you have a grandchild? Start the policy using them as the insured and you're the owner. The only thing that's important is you own it. Remember the bank example? The bank's the owner, the VP is the insured. The ownership is where you have the control. So that's the minimum. There is no right or wrong number, right? You can put as much away, up to $1 million per year, or you can put as little as 10 times your age. So it's just you're making deposits into your bank.
That you can take out within 30 days.
100%.
And is it 100% of the money, or is it a percentage?
100% every time 30 days you can. It's a percent of the amount of your deposit, depending on how much you're depositing. And it will be anywhere between 30 and 90% that you can take out of the plan.
Within 30 days?
In the first year only. The second year is more. Third year is more. Fourth, fifth, you're going to be taking out more. So eventually, and you know this because you've seen this, but your folks have not. So eventually, usually by year 3 or 4, if you deposit, let's just use 10 grand, simple math. If you put 10 grand into the plan in year 3 or 4, 30 days later, you're going to come back. You're probably going to be able to take out $11,000 or $12,000. You're going to take out more than what you put in because of uninterrupted compound interest. It can't go any other direction but up. It's the only place it can go. There's nothing that could happen that would ever make the value go down. You've just never seen something like that.
Absolutely. Like you said, I was blown away when he told me that I can not pay for every car that I've ever owned, get the money back for every car that you ever owned. And then I went down that rabbit hole, because you know how the rabbit hole goes.
Oh, I know.
Spreadsheets, and the spreadsheet like, okay, I paid off my car. Now year 5, let's pay this house off.
There's so many things in here. How to use this to fund college and get all the money back for college. How to use a home equity line of credit to fund real estate deals through this policy. I mean, how to get all the money back for all the cars you're ever going to buy, drive, and own. I mean, I'm just quickly glancing through. There's so many examples. How to pay off debt in a way that's twice. I mean, in the video that we give, and you can go to chrisnaugle.com, go to resources, and you'll click the video. You'll see how we helped the chiropractor erase $478,000 in debt that would have taken him 19 years to pay off. We erased that debt in 6.5 years, and he didn't save any more money. He didn't change anything in his life. Matter of fact, he didn't work any harder any longer. He didn't lose control of his money, and he didn't give up anything, and he certainly didn't take on any risk. All he did is change that one thing.
And that's what the wealthy folks do, folks. Come on. You want to be like the wealthy, you got to do what the wealthy do, you know? And so that's awesome. Like, we're going to bring this up again because I'm telling you guys to get this book. Go to moneyschoolrei.com/new book. if anything, you pay the shipping and you learn how to take control of your money. That's all we want today. That's the goal. You know, that's our goal. And Chris came out, and that's his goal, is to become America's #1 money mentor. And
Correct.
he's come out for free to talk to you guys. And I just want to say I appreciate you. Do you want to leave us with any final words?
God, there's so many final words. I want to leave with one other final word. You know, in your lives, you know, there's going to be failures. And I don't want you to ever think of a failure as a failure. I want you to think of it as a learning lesson, because that's exactly what it is. It is the greatest learning lesson you'll ever get. And so many people are afraid to fail because they fear it. They literally have been taught to fear failure. You will never meet a successful entrepreneur or a successful person that hasn't failed. If you fail, learn from it and move on.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
Well, we're going to go ahead and end off, guys. If you, like I said, if you want to reach out to Chris, there's his email. That's his website, chrisnaugle.com. Also, the Money School REI, that's for the book. And if you want to get started, there's the link for that to get started. And I hope you guys take advantage of all the great information Chris had to offer. And happy Friday. And wait, let's tell everybody, do something nice for somebody today. I want to give a shout out to Randall Wyatt. He does this on his shows all the time. He always tells people, you know, like, to do something nice for somebody, call somebody that you haven't talked to, build those relationships. So be positive today and do something nice for someone.
I love that.
Well,
thank you so much for having me on your show. It was an honor.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Okay. Bye, everybody.